What? You guys are here already? What are you here so early for, huh? What, you think I'm revealing Dimension Police? Man, they haven't even told me anything about it. You guys are here before me, man. Let's see what they sent me. Oh, welcome ladies and gentlemen. So today I will be doing the honors of revealing the Premium Collection Stride, which you already see on the screen, which is, of course, who would have guessed it, for Dimension Police. So this guy, honestly, is amazing. I'm really happy with what we got, and I need to share with you guys immediately. So we're going to go over the effect, and then after we're done with that, we're going to actually talk about what implications this guy has for Dimension Police in Premium. So allow me to pop him up right here. Heat Wave Beast Geomaglas, or Geomaglas as you wish to pronounce it. So he is an alien, and his skill is the following. First, continuous, Vanguard Circle and G-Zone. If face up, all of your grade 3 on Rearguard Circle and Guardian Circle get plus 5k power, as well as plus 5k shield and intercept. So this already, I have a lot of things to say about this to begin with, but the fact that this is on both Vanguard Circle and in G-Zone as a passive, oof, I love it. Second skill, and this is what I honestly think that the clan did need this. When attacks on Vanguard Circle, you may counterblast 1 and flip a G-Unit face up. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, call 2 cards from among them to Rearguard Circle, shuffle your deck, and this unit gets crit plus 1 until end of that battle for each of your grade 3 units. So there's honestly a lot to talk about this guy. Like, the fact that he has these 2 skills that work very interestingly with how a lot of the V-Series Dimension Police support has been, especially with the upcoming set that we've seen from some of the early Japanese reveals, is really interesting, and I think it's going to synergize really well with both what we have right now as well as what's coming in the future. So one of the big, not really issues, but one of the things about Dimension Police and Premium that we've had for quite some time is that a lot of people, myself included, like to play Goyusha as one of the main strategies because you're able to essentially superior ride on your opponent, and you can do this while they're on grade 1 if you go first, or you can kind of work together with cards like Daikaiser that I did last year in the BCS, and then you're kind of trying to go for this superior ride strategy that tries to seal out the game a bit quicker. Now, the 2 paths that you had, as I mentioned, was either going for Daikaiser, where you kind of play a slow game, wait until your opponent gets you to 4 damage, and then you do this big combo which attacks for like 4 damage and tries to just win that turn essentially with Daikaiser's Guard Break as a pressure point. Now the other path that wasn't really pursued as much in the previous years, and I think that this new stride will help a lot, is to actually just go first, ride your grade 2, call down your dimensional robos, use Goyusha, superior ride into a grade 3, and then usually you would go into Dieliner now because, Dieliner is amazing. He has that passive skill that makes your grade 3s have 10k shield, and then you basically attack and pass turn. But the next turn, while your opponent is on grade 2, you have the ability to actually stride because you've been on grade 3 for 1 turn. So then you go into this guy. And the thing is, to use Goyusha, you had to already put down, 3 other cards that were Dimensional Robo in order to actually superior ride. So you lose out a lot of cards. And until now, we haven't really had too much of a great pool of cards to choose from that would help to make up for that loss of cards. And so now, with the Geomaglas, we essentially have the opportunity to make up a lot of that, because he simply says on attack, counterblast 1, flip a G unit, check top 7, call 2 things. It's not like the previous, like the Dimax DX, which said like call in order of power, but now we actually get to call them like any 2 cards, which can honestly is pretty interesting because there's no super crazy interaction here, unfortunately, outside of maybe being able to call the old Laurel that is currently restricted, and then you basically get to call him before the Vanguard hits. So then if the Vanguard hits after he is actually called, then you get to restand him and do the skill again. But simply the ability to make up the minuses of Goyusha with his skill is already super attractive to me. I really, really like it. And one of the main things that you were doing with that superior ride strategy of Goyusha in the past was that you would essentially go into Dieliner, go into Force 2, and then use Dieliner's skill because you still had a counterblast available, most likely, if your opponent didn't damage deny you. And you would get to still search for yourself for a grade 3, get an extra crit, so your Dieliner would solo swing for 3 crit. So you'd be basically telling them 3 damage, you take it, you leave it, up to you, but then you still have crits in deck to obviously push that even more. So you already had this first attack, which was pretty threatening, but then Geomaglass comes in, and it's just like, okay, so you had to deal with this first die-liner attack, which was just, full of crits. Here's a second one, because keep in mind that if you went into Force 2, then Geomaglass by default already has 2 crit base because of Force 2. But then for any grade 3s that you have on board, he gains another one. And that's already great because you basically force your opponent to either PG or risk losing the previous turn. And now this turn again, do you have a Perfect Guard? No? Okay, here's 6 damage. That is a possibility, and I love it for that. There was also one Dimensional Robo Grade 2 recently revealed from the Japanese side, actually last Friday, or rather the Friday before that, which essentially said that after it attacks, it gains some power, and then if you let it gain that power, it self-retires. So you can kind of enable this multi-attack strategy. Of course, Geomaglass does not say that you need to, call to unoccupied rearguard circles. You can call to occupied ones as well to basically get multi-attacks out, which is also a really cool direction for Dimension Police to go in. But you essentially have this, ability to push for bigger numbers with some of the recently revealed cards, and then still use Geomaglass to actually go for even more attacks, and that's actually really, really cool. His skill also enables us to even build our decks very differently, simply because you can actually go Force 1 on rearguard circles, which is very strange for Dimension Police, because for us it's all about, focusing the power on the Vanguard, but by doing that, you're able to actually, swing with some of your rears, and then still be able to call on those same circles that have Force 1s on them, or Force 2s for that matter, and then you're able to do that as well. And so that's another interesting point, in that in later turns, once you've reridden a couple times, and you've put Force 2s on your other front row rearguard circles, going back into Geomaglass can actually enable you to have just very threatening boards, because you're able to essentially swing twice with rearguard circles that have Force 2 on them, and then swing with Geomaglass again, he has lots of crits on his own, and then call 2 more units that can then attack again with those extra power. And if you call something like Die Dragon, which naturally gains a bunch of power, you're going to be in a pretty good spot. So honestly, absolutely loving it. Now, another thing is that we often speak about damage deny. A lot of people in Premium talk about, not giving your opponent the first damage for a lot of their plays, whether it's against Neo Nectar, not giving them a damage to use Gladiolas, and now with the recently revealed Stride for Murakumo, not giving them a damage so they can't use Hyuga. This actually works pretty well, because now what you can do with Dimension Police is just ride up, pass turn, next turn, ride up, and then just go into Geomaglass after that, and then just call down a bunch of grade 3s, or, combination of Force 2 and grade 3s, Commander Laurel, things like that can give inherent crits. Also, the Die Cannon, if you use Great Dayusha, for example, can also help you to threaten more crits. And then you basically can just set up him to risk your opponent to go to 6 from 0, and that's amazing. Any card that says you can have your opponent go from 0 to 6 damage is inherently good, in my opinion, especially when it can get beefy like Dimension Police cards typically do. And also, you can either have to commit 4 grade 3s to board, but keep in mind they'll get intercept thanks to him, as well as extra power and defense, or you can commit 3 grade 3s plus the Laurel, things like that, so you can actually rest them with the Laurel and get the extra crit plus more power in your Vanguard, so it really does have that threat of Perfect Guard or lose. And I really love that about this card. Design-wise, it's fresh, it's great, it's something new, but it's something the clan really wants to have. Because in the past with X-Gallop, how much were they actually risking to lose? Because they take the first attack with the Force 2, you check a crit or 2, okay, they maybe go to 4 damage, but then the second attack doesn't gain any extra power, or rather, it doesn't also gain any extra drives unless you use the Azorius, but they have to give you a damage for that, and only then will they be able to just Perfect Guard you, and that's it, that's the end of story. Whereas this is they can PG and you can just pass turn and next turn do the same thing. Keep them at 0 damage and for the entire game basically. Just go into Geomaglass 4 times, and if they can't deal with it, then that's it. They only have 4 Perfect Guards, but you have 4 Geomaglasses, and then a bunch of other strides on top of that. So there's a lot to think about it with this card. Another thing is that there are some times when the metagame shifts to more decks that run grade 1 Perfect Guards, such as Esras, and now we've seen Claret's Sword pop up in Premium that also runs grade 1 Perfect Guards. And so, considering that, we do have this wonderful card called Glory Maker, which essentially says, Counterblast 1, your opponent can only guard with grade 0s. So then, of course they can still G-Guard, but from hand they can only guard with grade 0s, so if it's against Luard or things like that, then there's not going to be much Perfect Guarding going on at all. Now, I want to also talk about its passive skill a fair bit. You know, it's both on Vanguard Circle and face up in G-Zone, so after you stride it, it will be active. And I think this works really well with this. There was one build of Dimension Police in Premium that I was experimenting with last BCS season because I wanted to make a hyper defensive build for premiums, because we got one card in the previous set, which was the Gin Guard, which basically said that it got extra shield if your opponent's grade is higher, which basically means that if you're sitting on grade 3 during your opponent's turn when they stride, when they're in grade 4, it's a really big shield. And so I like that simply for the fact that it was another defensive option. We already had Miracle Dandy in the past, and then we also obviously had Dieliner, which gave plus 10k shield to all your grade 3s. So now I'm like, you could build a deck which had a bunch of defensive pieces like the Gin Guard, the Miracle Dandy, and a high grade 3 count, and just be super defensive on your opponent's turn, and then next turn come back with strides like our new one, and X Gallop, and Stark, and things like that, where you're able to play super defensively on your opponent's turn, survive whatever they throw at you, and then you basically go into your own hyper-offensive stride with your Force 2, and you're looking pretty good in my opinion. And now, I want to talk about one more thing with this card. And actually, it's not just this card, it's quite a few of the premium cards so far from Premium Collection 2020. And this, I need to really explicitly state, none of this is told to me by Bushiroad. This is my personal theory that I've been thinking about for some time. And this really, I have to highlight and emphasize the fact that this is not any information I received from Bushiroad. The only information I received is this card. That's it. So, we've seen a few strides so far, including this one, that really want grade 3s on board. We saw the Kagero one revealed by WCC Kai, which said, you know, your grade 3s get extra power after they retire. Now we have mine, which also says that, you know, for each grade 3 you get a crit. And then we also have this very interesting phenomenon happening in Japan, where the Vanguard Zero Championship is an online event, but the prize for making it to the finals is to receive a Majesty Lord Blaster that is a trigger unit and can be used in Premium. It says explicitly on the box, you know, of the advert for the tournament that this card can be used in Premium. Now, obviously it would be a little bit unfair maybe, or just a little bit strange if just the people that actually topped in that event or made it to that event were able to play grade 3 triggers in their Premium decks. So my idea was that they are going to give us a grade 3 trigger for every single clan but one piece each. So basically every single clan gets a critical trigger grade 3 that is a reprint of an older card, and it's a trigger unit in Premium Collection 2020. So I had to ask Bushiroad if it's okay for me to talk about this, because this is a theory I've had for quite some time, and with some of these reveals lately and just how things are looking, I can't help but think about it, you know? So considering that, you know, out of our 16 triggers, 4 of them can be grade 3s. Of course, we lose a bit of shield value, but then we have defensive options like this that help us put up with it instead. I feel like that makes, you know, Daikaiser variants better. Also, I mean, this card in itself becomes better because then you can Superior Cold grade 3s and turn him into, you know, lethal amount of critical. But if my theory does come true, it's going to be pretty interesting. So I think that's not just for Dimension Police, but just for Premium as a whole. So that was it. That was my exclusive Premium Collection reveal of the Dimension Police Stride. Big thank you to Bushiroad for letting me actually reveal the Dimension Police Stride. Honestly, it means a lot. I honestly did not know what I was going to be revealing until, you know, they actually sent it to me. And I'm really excited to be able to reveal, you know, the stride of my favorite clan, and the stride that will actually change the game plans and, you know, how we build our decks for my favorite clan too. And I think fellow Dimension Police fans will definitely be really happy about this card, and I think you guys should also keep it in mind, because this might just catch you off guard at regionals when BCS kicks off at the end of this year. So that's going to be it for me today. Once again, huge thank you to Bushiroad for letting me do this and be part of these exciting YouTuber exclusive reveals. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.